with some incredible people. So I've got Kelly Boyle, who's on our committee. Thank you, Kelly. So Kelly is a rock star. I'm going to let her introduce herself, but she is everywhere in South Florida. Every time I turn around, she's at an event or hosting an event. And we also have Steve Edwards, who is one of our TEDx speakers. He's a veteran and entrepreneur. He's going to give you a little teaser as to what he's going to talk about. So Kelly, I'm going to turn it over to you, let you introduce yourself, and then we'll give Steve the floor for a little bit to give us a teaser about his TED Talk.
Absolutely. Well, hi, everyone. I'm Kelly Boyle. I own a franchise of Ameriprise Financial in Boca Raton. So I do wealth management and financial planning to help entrepreneurs, executives, tech professionals. And my background is in technology, and that's actually how Steve and I have met. I'm actually on the board of directors for South Florida Tech Hub and director of events for that organization. And I really enjoy helping build the tech community in South Florida. And obviously that's how I got involved as well with Cindy, is I enjoy things that let's say, help the tech community here. And so we got connected with TEDx as well. So I'm really excited to hear Stephen's talk next week, but we'll learn a little bit more about Stephen and what he's going to chat about. Thanks so much, Stephen, for joining us.
All right. Thank you, Kelly.
Yes.
All right. Oh, go ahead, Cindy.
Little teaser, Steve. We're excited.
You only gave me a couple minutes, so we all know I like to talk and get out there. I mean, I only get 12 minutes at TEDx. I only get a few here. My name is Steve Edwards. I'm the CEO founder of Premier Virtual. I'm also a podcast host for Weeding Through the BS, a podcast for leaders that get shit done, right? We're out there. We love people's stories. I love to talk about my story, but more importantly, I love to hear other people's story. I believe right now, we talk about the Great Resignation. We've talked about the Great Resignation for now 3 years. But I don't know if a lot of people know out there, we hear the unemployment rate so low it's there. But a number that shocked me as I'm looking at things out there, 50 million people quit their jobs last year. So think about that number, right? And you really look at America with 334 million people there, 160 million people in the workforce, almost a third of them quit their jobs. Now, why are people quitting their jobs? They're not happy at work, right? And that comes to workplace culture. And I believe, and that's what my talk is about, is workplace culture, how to kill that Great Resignation with workplace culture. Starting from the beginning, when you get somebody into your team, how do you put them into the culture? We've been ranked as a top place to work here now by the South Florida Business Journal multiple years in a row. Last year, we were number 6. And it's not me that does this. It's my team that does this. And so many people say, Steve, what did you put in to get this team to go? And I go, a lot of times I just let my team do what they want to do. And it comes down to remote work. So many people said, okay, you can go 100% remote work. Well, now they're trying to bring people back in. And I've said it for a long time that, companies are going to take back control, right? For a couple of years there, the employees had the control of what they wanted. They kind of, COVID showed them what's their worth. What can they do out there, right? And how many people left their jobs because the grass was greener on the other side? And then they realized it wasn't greener on the other side.
Right.
The grass is green. The grass is green where you water it. And you have to water it from an executive level all the way down to, right, individually watering that grass. So we built a team where, my calendar is open for my team at all times. So many CEOs and executives say, I have an open door policy. And then somebody comes to the door and they say, not right now. So my team actually has my calendar. So once a month, they put 30 minutes on my calendar and we could talk about whatever they want. It's not what I want. And I said, no work. Let's not talk about work. We talk about that during the week, but let's talk about you, right? Because I want to know them, because if they're having a problem in their life, can I help them? Is there something that I can do at work that can help them? Or do they just want to get something off their chest? And that's really where I believe why culture is so important, because I know
celebrating, right? Celebrating if they're getting married or having a baby or celebrating a birthday. I mean, that's all great things that you take that time to get that personal element there.
Yeah, and I believe that's important, because now they know, hey, listen, I'm a human too, right? So many people know that have been to my events. They all know I'm an emotional guy that's out there. But building that culture, it starts from every one of my team members. I was at a conference this last week, and I was talking about this exact thing. And I had somebody raise their hand and say, what if they tell me something that I don't want to hear? And that's going to affect their job. And that's why they're not doing the productivity. I go, well, that's what you do as a leader, is now you can say, how can I take that and help them to be a better person? And then she said the words that I was like, this is why you're not a good leader. She goes, I just don't have time to put 15 to 30 minutes on my calendar for my employees.
Oh.
Wow.
Oh.
And I was like,
that's not right.
This is right there in my head, I have something that had to click. I know I'm getting a survey after this to say how good the session was. So I go, do I sugarcoat it, or do I say, here's what you need to do? And we all know Steve Edwards doesn't sugarcoat much. I just said,
thank you for the BS, by the way.
I didn't do the BS at all. I just said, that's the problem right there, is you have to make time for your team. And I go, you have to go out and spend a little time. And then I click to the next slide, which was a perfect timing. And I go, employee turnover, it can take 1 to 2 years for a new employee to get up to the production level of an existing employee. I go, by you not spending 15 to 30 minutes a month getting to spend some time in building and nurturing that relationship, means you're going to always have that turnover. So you're always going to be in the negative and the behind aspect of it.
Absolutely. I mean, isn't the same thing as well when let's say trying to get a new client, right? So it's so much easier to nurture an existing client than to go out and get a new client. So if you can just keep that existing client, same thing with workers and employees. I agree. It's 100%. If you can keep the same team and just nurture that relationship, you can be much more efficient and effective and
100%.
more productive workforce.
Yeah. I was, talking to some people at the conference, and, one of the other vendors, and I said, listen, because he goes, it wasn't a lot of traffic here. And I go, it's not about the traffic here sometimes. I said, sometimes it's the afterwards. Maybe it's the bar, the restaurant, the hallway, right? Is just building the relationships with your existing client, right? You're nurturing them, and it's branding. It's getting your face out there. It's letting people know who you are.
Absolutely. That's awesome, Stephen. So, so what is the topic of your talk for TEDx?
It is how to kill the great resignation with workplace culture. So it's really kind of like I was talking before. It's how do you internally build a culture? Do you have a culture team? Do you have people that go out and say, we want to do stuff? So if we think about what is culture, what is something outside of the office? I think about back when I first graduated college, I had my first job. Our culture was work hard real day and party all night and get up the next day and start it over. Right. And that's
right. I think all of us have had that culture before.
Right. But now, right, with a father of 2 boys, a 5 and an 8-year-old, and a loving wife, I don't want to do that.
Right. That's not.
And when I built my first business, I was going to happy hours every night. I was going to breakfast. I was going to lunches. That's how I built it. Well, now I don't want to do that. I look at my schedule and say, okay, maybe 1 happy hour a month I'll go to. But guess what? I'm still going to be home by 8 o'clock, still try to be there for bedtime. But internally, is it a barbecue? We had at our office, we'll bring in the team. Usually they come in once every couple of weeks. We'll bring the whole team in, and then we'll bring in food for them. And that's just the small things that are there. Is it, I've talked to people where they'll have their team, they'll go out and they'll do like a beach cleanup as a team. and they will go out, and then afterwards they send out kind of an email and a one-pager to everybody. These are bigger companies that just to let everybody know what they did out there. So it's now other people are seeing it and saying, oh, wow, well, that was fun. That's giving back. But it's not what me as a leader or that the CEO wants to do. You got to get down to the team and you got to build the trenches. And I think if you have I don't care if you have 20 people or 2,000 people, imagine having a diverse team of different backgrounds, different ages, different religious groups, and say, hey, let's get together and plan something as a team. Maybe one month it's, gleaning or a beach cleanup or just a barbecue in the park or just getting together at the office. That's to me is what really building a culture is. And I think, we so many people talk about the work as a family. And unfortunately, I had a passing in my family a few weeks ago, and I had to go back to a funeral. So I'm standing next to my father at the funeral as people are coming up, and it was his wife, and everybody from her work. And I didn't realize this. And all of a sudden I was like, they kept coming up and they kept saying the name of the company, And I was like, it's like Pessy. And I was like, I'm looking at my wife and I'm like, how many people are here? It was over 100 people from her work, and not just to come in and take effects, but they had stories. They knew her. They had a family, and that CEO finally came in, and I was like shocked because my stepmother's in shipping receiving, and the CEO came in, and I talked to him, and I go, I just want to tell you, you've built a family, your workplace culture. I go, I talk about this, you're living it, right? Because I believe so many people say it, but how many people
absolutely
live it? And
but you'll get there, Stephen. Of course, you're going to get there.
So that's just what it is. But I'm like looking at this gentleman and I talked to him the next day at the funeral and just telling him how there. And he's sending me emails, seeing how my dad's doing. Like, I was shocked at what I saw. And I was like, that is what everybody should be doing, right? Not just talk about it, not just say, hey, we're driving revenue, we're driving this. Are you truly building somewhere that people want to come to work and do their jobs on a daily basis?
Yep. And I think it comes down to the fact too, that you put your people first. Like all the companies that put their people and their, let's say workforce, they just tend to, there's like an extra level of care that leads to, I feel, more productivity. And if you have, let's say, the folks that work for you enjoy coming to work, right? They're going to work harder versus if they come to work and they dread it every morning, right? So
I agree. Because why? Those people that don't want to come to work, what are they doing? They're quiet quitting, right? The new buzzword that's there in quiet quitting, but it's been going on for years, right? And it's there. It's, you got quiet quitting. Now you got that new thing that just came out, bare minimum Mondays, which drives me nuts. Like I am a fan of Mondays. I want to get to work. I want to get to the office.
Absolutely.
But it's all these people. Why? Because they don't want to work hard. And why? Because they're not happy with where they're at. Are they not happy with their manager? Right? We've all heard that old adage, people don't quit their jobs, they quit a manager.
That's true, absolutely.
Because they don't want to be there, and that's the challenge is if you don't want to be at work, and I'm very open about that. If I tell somebody, my team knows, if you don't want to be here, just let me know, right? You can see when their productions drop or when they have some issues out there and, you have to have a phone call. Right. Unfortunately, I had to have a phone call with one of my team members a few weeks ago because a big mistake was made because the mind was there and, friend was pregnant and having a baby and she made some mistakes before she left. She just forgot to tell some people some stuff. So then I had to have that phone call and say, hey, we need to just make sure before you leave, you need to have everything set in place.
Right.
So but you have to have that. And so many people, and I didn't do it in a negative way, right? I actually had her boss talk with her first, then I talked with her, right? Just to be able to make sure, because you have to know, hey, and really the reason I got on in there is because I wanted to know, are you checking out? Because if you're checking out, guess what? We need to know sooner than later because I'd rather you not be here. Not if you're not happy, don't be here. Right? Go after
Absolutely.
somewhere else. Right? Because so many people. Right? If you chase two rabbits, you're not going to catch either. Right? So find out where you want to be. Stay there. Like you said, Kelly, which is the most important. People that are happy are more productive than people that are not happy.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I'm always intrigued, Stephen, by like let's say my clients and friends and other people that I know their entrepreneurial journeys, right? So how they actually got into like being the entrepreneur, right? You said you were in the military before. Like tell us a little bit about that timeline of when you decided I'm going to be an entrepreneur, I'm going to start my own company, I'm going to do something different.
So I jumped out of airplanes in the Army, and I love the military, right? We can even go back to high school. I was a C student. I cared more about cooking class because of who was in the class. Like that was
Right.
who I was, right? I was right. I like to have more fun. I didn't care about school as much. And I had some of my teachers. I looked at my mom actually sent me this thing a few weeks ago of a progress report that I had. My favorite class, which was DECA, which I got an F at the progress report. And he said, Steve doesn't apply himself. Now, if you look at my end report, I got an A in the class, right? Because that was my favorite class. I just didn't apply myself. I wasn't there. I knew I was going to the military. I didn't care about that. But I got to the military and I loved it. I loved the camaraderie. I loved serving my country. But I didn't like the $800 a month paycheck. And I was like, I couldn't do this. So I knew immediately there was more for me in life. So I started to go to college at night while I was in the Army, got out of there with 72 credit hours, came to South Florida, went to FAU. And then I went and I started.
Wow, that's exciting.
Go Owls, Final Four, exciting about
Wonderful.
that. I actually met my wife at the first FAU football game on campus. So,
oh my gosh.
yeah, she went to FAU too. So we met like long after college, but just right, we're very FAU tied. But long story short is, I went in, I was in corporate America, I was working, I went from a lot of different sales jobs. That's just who I am. I knew as a salesperson. But I went in and I started working for a company, and I got recruited to this company, and suddenly they shut down my division. And I was running New York, New Jersey, Texas, Florida. I had big markets. It was business to business sales. Our clients were AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, and I loved what I did. But they shut my business down. And I said to myself, I will never again make other people rich and control my income and my time. Right. I said, that's it. So I went out and I bought a license agreement to a company doing in-person job fairs. Right. So I built that. I did that for 9 years. And then once I realized, hey, the market was kind of changing back in 2018, I said, I'm going to develop a software. And people were like, virtual? What's this virtual stuff? It wasn't anything, but I just kind of had a vision and a dream. And it was really, I was sick of working for other people. I was sick of, making other people rich.
Absolutely.
Some people say, oh, well, it's easier, the entrepreneur life. No, it's not. It's harder. I work more hours. Yes, I'm more flexible. I can, work around schedules and stuff like that. But, you work harder. But if you have a dream, and I believe the harder I work, the better it's going to be, and it's the old hunter's adage, right? You kill what you eat, or you eat what you kill. And that's kind of the way that I believed in it. And I was, so I got to where I was at. I believed in myself. And I think so many people that have an idea out there, they've worked in corporate America for so long, and just not used to, they don't want to take that chance, but it's hard to take that chance.
I think a lot of times you learn from those experiences. Like if you haven't been in corporate America, you don't know what it's like. You don't understand what you don't want. So then you can construct a company that you do want. You can say, hey, these are the things that I definitely don't want in the company that I'm going to build. So I feel like those experiences do help when you're trying to build something new, because like you, I'm an entrepreneur. So I always think about things that way too. I used to work in more the corporate world with Ameriprise and then moved to work and have my own franchise or my own business. And you start to think, well, how would I want to do things if I was the CEO? And I take ownership in that. And it sounds like you do as well. Start to take ownership and say, hey, we're going to build something in a different way, the way that I believe a company should be built. And kudos to you, because it's so hard getting out there, and when you have that vision, actually making it happen. So many people have that dream, have that I'm going to make this happen, but aren't able to like connect the dots, right? Between
Right.
what they want and where they are at that moment.
Yeah,
So
you said something too that resonates with me. Is I worked for a company one time, and I got recruited in this company. It was my dream job,
yeah.
and it was a huge salary, right? Huge bonus.
Mhm.
I was set for life with this. I was the number 2 guy in the company. They were doing 30 million a year, so I was set. I was
Mhm.
good. And I got there and I met the owner of the company who I'd never met before. I had never heard so many F bombs in a
Oh
sales
my gosh.
meeting, and I'm not just saying an F bomb. I'm saying, hey, to the sales team, you are all mother effers. Like, it was just unbelievable the way,
Wow.
and that culture. It was a dog eat dog culture. Hey, I got to tell on this person so that, if you were doing the right thing, that wasn't good enough. You had to be making sure, hey, this guy didn't do this right. This guy took an extra 10 minutes at lunch. And that's what the owner wanted. He wanted this culture where it was work. And I said, I would never do that. I walked away from my dream job, huge salary, because to me, culture and my morals were more important than money.
Absolutely. That is so true. And culture, happiness at work is way more important than, the dollars that you bring in. And
100%.
so absolutely. So Stephen, we're so excited to have you speak at TEDx Boca Raton next Saturday. So thank you so much for joining us today. Do you have any last words of wisdom before we depart on culture real quick?
Yeah, culture is so important. Just, build it, live it. Don't just say it. Come out to TEDx Boca. There is a phenomenal lineup. I'm excited to be an attendee with some of these people that are speaking there. I've heard
Oh
some
my
of them
gosh.
before, and it's always better to hear, more. So I'm excited to be there as an attendee. So come on out to, TEDx Boca Raton and see all these phenomenal speakers that they put together. Thank you, Kelly.
Awesome. Well, we're very excited to have you there, Stephen. Thank you so much for joining us this morning as well.
All right.
So,
Thank you. You guys have a wonderful week. See you all next week.
sounds great. We'll see you then. Fantastic.